Dr. Jill Biden comes out with a very racially sensitive statement about the Hispanic community that she's trying to talk to. And of course, Republicans pounce, so says the Hill. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that and where that goes. Karine Jean-Pierre, token diversity hire, and most of the outlets are out there saying that we're going to see a CPI report of 9% or higher that will demand a 75-point rate hike. So we'll talk just a bit about what's happening, what that means, and where that goes with your gas prices and your grocery prices. So stay tuned for that. The father of a teen killed in Parkland interrupts Biden with a call for more action on gun control. And Roots Action opposes running Biden for another term. It is going to be all this and more. Welcome to midterm season. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Edheads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and I love you like I love taco. That might actually be my new tagline, starting from the beginning. I love all of you like I love tacos. Welcome to the news. Welcome to the morning show. We've got this is not a bad spread today. This is not going to be, well, I don't know if it'll take us, if we'll get finished with it all. I always say, oh, we'll probably get finished with it, and then we don't. I just added a couple more at the end because Gina had a new tweet that I kind of enjoyed, and Starbucks is going to be closing some stores up because of safety concerns. I caught that while we were live. I caught that while I was getting ready to make the announcement, so I added the story up there because I thought you guys would enjoy that. But yeah, super huge inflation. They're saying it's going to be elevated. Jill Biden thinks that the Hispanic community is a bunch of tacos. That's always exciting. What a weird day. That I don't even have everything up in order. Because otherwise we'd be reading the Daily Wire article about the tacos before the finance. So anyway, we got to get to it. We got to get started. It's going to be, well, strap yourselves in. We'll get to what we can get to here today, and hopefully it's going to be all of it here over on Contemporary. Before we get started, make sure you guys go check out the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Breckenhoff, the R-Rated Conservative, and the Porch Boys. Go check all of them out. Check out KTZed. Check out a new upcoming show with Britt. It's going to be a little bit more sketch comedy and a little bit less news and culture, but we do want to take over the culture sphere too. So definitely come back out here. Enjoy the comedy. Enjoy the fun that goes along with that. And go check all of them out. All right, let's get down into it, shall we? Let's get the live chat up so I can see. Maybe my microphone's off and I don't even know. All right. Oh, there's the taco story. Let's look in at the Dow to start with for the morning here. The Dow took a tumble towards the end of trading yesterday. It tumbled at the beginning. It tried. It got itself back up over the hump just briefly off of this, which I think there might have been a little bit of honking going on there. Like, oh, we got to hold those pensions back up. But it just dumped again. A lot of people are looking at this, and with the talks of 9% inflation and the talks of another GDP shrinkage, which we'll be getting those numbers here pretty soon too, probably within the next couple days. This is not a good time to be an investor, no matter how much they're trying to honk the Dow Jones. And if you have something in your 401k that is not a very safe stock, and even there, I would be worried about it. Note, this is not official financial advice. Talk to your financial advisor and just see what you can do to either keep yourself above water or stanch the bleeding coming forward, because it's looking like it's going to hurt. I mean, we've already seen sub 30K once again. I'd kind of like to see sub 10K, but only for like a minute. I want to see the Dow drop below 10,000 and then come right back up. Just to see what would happen. A lot of people are like, no, you don't. That'll burn down society. I'm like, okay, well, let me get some popcorn here. But that's what we see coming off of that and where that goes. Let's look at the Bitcoin. The Bitcoin is down to 19,788.40 at 15,000 mark. That's where we're going to throw a little bit into it, but it's still going to be on this wild ride. So starting back in the 5-day, it jumped off and it's dumped almost $2,000 in its value throughout the last 5 days. Looking at the last few hours here, starting there at 2490.20, dropping down to 19,788.40, and well, we'll see what happens, and we will see what we have for the end in sight and where that goes. Looking at the gas, some good news on the gas front, although this might actually be bad news too. I heard somebody make a point that I had not thought of yesterday, but we'll look at the good news first. The good news is that we are below the $4 mark all the way across the board for Gas Buddy. 398s or 399s. Oh, they added one since I set this up this morning. We have one 406. That's in Madison proper. But other than that, everything we're seeing here. Now, none of this is in Madison proper, keep in mind, but except for the Woodmans at the bottom. But either 398 or 399. So that is a big reprieve. I'm actually probably going to throw a little bit of fuel in after work today just because you can afford it again. So that's what I'm seeing back off of that. One of the things to worry about with this is demand. Now, we talked about the fact that there's going to be a lot of push to get some of the supply out because it looks like the Saudis are turning on the pumps, which means the gas company is going to want to buy the cheaper crude and thus put out the cheaper gas. So they got to get their stores of the more expensive crude and the more expensive gas out of there. But something else to pay attention to is the fact, and I can't believe I didn't put two and two together, but when I talked on Friday, this past Friday, about people not wanting to go on the vacation, people not wanting to run out and hook the truck to the trailer and bring the trailer out and go camping or instead do the staycation, tells me that people aren't driving as much. And I realized that out of myself. It used to be I'd get up and probably once a month go up to my mom and dad's. That's a full tank there and back. I don't do that. I couldn't tell you the last time I went to my mom and dad's house. I couldn't. Heck, last year I did it. When did Dakota get married? Yeah, I did it twice in a week. Because I went up one weekend and realized that I misread the invitation, so I went up the next weekend for the wedding. And didn't even think twice about putting the fuel in the truck for that. Didn't even consider it. It didn't bother me one bit. But now when we're seeing prices like this, and, wages not keeping up with inflation, and another 9% inflation, are people out there actually driving less? It's possible. Bringing the demand down, once again, and putting us into a stagflationary cycle. So we'll watch this. We'll see where this goes and what happens with that. For what little bit I drive, I would kind of like to see the gas come down, even though it's only 10 miles one way. But regardless, we'll see what happens there. Let's grab one from IBD. Do I have everything in the right order? I don't. I'm actually going to drop that one. All right, let's see what IBD has to say. I had two finance articles before the inflation. All right, the CPI inflation rate may hit 9%. Dow Jones rally stalls, from Jed Graham. Inflation may finally be past its peak, with gas prices pulling back since mid-June. But that won't show up in tomorrow morning's June Consumer Price Index data, which is collected throughout the month. The CPI inflation rate is hitting 8.8% through Deutsche Bank. Economists are predicting 9%. The hot inflation data will compel the Federal Reserve to keep aggressively tightening monetary policy, pressuring stocks. The Dow Industrial Average suffered moderate losses on Monday. The stock market action, while the Nasdaq Composite was down sharply, the Dow Jones pointed modestly lower early Tuesday. Wall Street's consensus calls for a 1.1% monthly rise in the CPI, which would push the annual inflation rate above 8.6% reported for May. The core CPI, excluding food and energy prices, is expected to rise 0.5%, with the core inflation rate easing to 5.8% from 6%. March's 6.5% core inflation was the highest since August 1982. In cycles past, the Fed has put more emphasis on core inflation, which can provide better indication of underlying price pressures amid volatility in energy prices. However, with inflation running at a 4-decade high, Fed officials worry that expectations for high inflation will become self-reinforcing. That means workers will push for bigger pay raises and companies becoming less hesitant about raising prices. Inflation in goods prices, excluding food and energy, has seen a deceleration from double-digit increases earlier in the year to 8.5% in May. However, non-energy services inflation, which affects 57% of consumer budgets, has kept moving higher, hitting a 30-year high of 5.2% in May. That includes big categories such as rent and medical services, where price increases reflect the strong labor market more than inflationary supply disruptions. Until services inflation begins to come down significantly, the Fed will remain aggressive. The Dow Jones pulled back 0.4% on Monday, the S&P fell 1.15%, and the Nasdaq fell 2.3%. Markets were mixed Tuesday, with the Dow futures falling 0.7%, while the S&P futures were down 0.5%, and the Nasdaq 100 futures dipped less than 0.1%. Yeah, but look at what each of them was working on. As of Monday's close, the Dow is down 15.3% from its all-time closing high on January 4th. The S&P 500 has fallen 19.6% from its peak close, and the Nasdaq has lost 29.2%. The stock market has been oscillating between relief that a brush with recession is fast approaching, which could bring an early end to Fed rate hikes, and worry that the Fed will have to remain aggressive. Sentiment is now leaning towards an extended period of Fed tightening following last week's stronger than expected jobs report. The CME Group FedWatch page shows markets are pricing a 75 basis point rate hike in July 27th. Another 50-point hike looks like a sure thing on September 21st. A hot June CPI inflation report and an expected bounce in retail sales will be reported on Friday, could buttress the tighter for longer thesis. But that won't settle the question, which will ultimately come down to how abruptly the labor market deteriorates. Look, we're sitting in a point right now where more and more people, even with the gas coming down in a reprieve, are looking at their finances saying, can I really afford to go to the office? Do I need to find something more local? And is the thing that's more local going to pay as much? Do I need to give up the office job all the way over in Madison to work at the gas station in Janesville? Can I work at a grocery store in Kenosha and still come out further on top than driving back and forth to Milwaukee to whatever that great job is up there? Can I do warehouse work in Pleasant Prairie instead of going to Chicago? These are all considerations that are being made right now, which may be what's driving, unfortunately, possibly a stagflationary effect in the gas prices, but also is going to stagflate wages. This is going to be interesting. And I'd be curious to see if we start to see a big uptick in unemployment right before the midterms. But we'll continue to watch this and see where this goes. We're going to grab just a couple more on the inflation. From USA Today, there are signs inflation could slow, but that likely won't stop a record high in consumer prices and a big Fed hike. From Paul Davidson. Never mind, that is not archived. Let's grab one from The Blaze. Token diversity hire, says the Biden admin, expects a highly elevated headline inflation figure in the upcoming CPI report. From Alex Nitzberg. White House Press Secretary Token Diversity Hire said during a press briefing on Monday that the White House expects the upcoming Consumer Price Index to have a highly elevated headline figure. The press secretary said that June CPI data is already out of date because energy prices have come down substantially this month and are expected to fall further. Americans have been feeling the financial sting caused by roaring inflation, and that has been eroding the purchasing power of their savings and earnings. Drivers have been facing significant pain at the pump. As of Monday, the AAA national average for a price for a gallon of regular gas is $4.67.8. That figure has declined slightly since it surpassed the $5 mark last month. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics is slated to release new CPI data on Wednesday. In the CPI report released last month, the BLS noted all items index increased 8.6% for the 12 months ending in May, the largest 12-month increase since that period ending in December of 1981. Last week, Diversity Hire claimed that the nation is stronger economically than we have been in history. Pointing to unemployment and jobs numbers, she said that the admin recognizes fuel and food prices are high, and then blamed the pinkpox pandemic and Russian President Vladimir Putin's war against Ukraine as the culprits. On Monday, Diversity Hire continued to blaming Putin for higher food and fuel costs. She also claimed that the U.S. has a strong economy. Oh, that's not a quote. If Americans continue to suffer the painful economic repercussions of a high-flying inflation in the months ahead, the issue could serve as a significant drag on Democrats during the 2022 midterm elections. Let's see. Republicans are doing nothing but obstructing our efforts to crack down on gas price gouging. There is no gas price gouging. Full stop. I hate that term. There is no gas price gouging. If the gas companies had it their way, the gas would be 72 cents a gallon. Because they could sell it for that and make the same amount of money off of a gallon of gas that they make now. But you would be filling everything that you had, your vehicle, your boat, your RV. I don't understand how people don't understand this, how people don't get this. The more volume you use, the more the gas companies make. But anything to keep from taking the blame. Lower food prices, lower healthcare costs, and hopefully soon, lower your prescription drug costs, a tweet posted from the president's Twitter account declares. This is not right, and that's why this election is going to be so darn important. In response to the president's tweet, GOP Rep. Cliff Bentz of Oregon tweeted, "This is the man who ran on the promise to take responsibility for his actions. First it's Russia, now it's Republicans." And don't forget the greedy gas companies. God, I can't stand this president. And the people that are trying to circle the wagons around him. All right, let's get into the main news of the day. And we're going to start off with something a little bit funny. From the Daily Wire, First Lady compares Hispanic people to tacos at Latinx Inclusion luncheon. Okay. The Latinx is too far for most Latin people. The Inclusion? Are you serious? Guys, why is everything so stupid? From Tim Meads. First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden compared members of the Hispanic community in the United States to tacos, flowers, and glorified convenience stores during a speech in San Antonio on Monday. Speaking from the Latinx Inclusion luncheon hosted by Unidos, US, Biden told the audience that the diversity of the Hispanic community is as distinct as the, she didn't say bodegas, as distinct as the bodegas of the Bronx, as beautiful as the blossoms of Miami, and as unique as the breakfast tacos here in San Antonio. Is your strength. Don't believe me? Let's listen.
But we can't get those things on our own. Raul helped build this organization with the understanding that the diversity of this community, as distinct as the bodegas of the Bronx, as beautiful as the blossoms of Miami, and as unique as the breakfast tacos here in San Antonio.
Listen to that too. It sounds like there's half booze and half cheers.
Is your strength.
So let's listen to that again, just to, because I know everybody's jumping on the tacos line, which they're absolutely right to do, because that is horrifically racist, coming from somebody who probably looks at Kamala Harris and considers her to be the help.
But we can't get those things on our own. Raul helped build this organization with the understanding that the diversity of this community, as distinct as the Bogotas of the Bronx, as beautiful as the blossoms of Miami, and as unique as the breakfast tacos here in San Antonio, understanding that the diversity of this community, as distinct as the Bogotas of the Bronx.
That's the part I want to focus on. Now, number one, first and foremost, tell me you've never been to a bodega in your life. Well, that's what the poors do. I don't know what this thing is. Is Fanning here yet, by the way? Because I want to ask him. I mean, what is that like in New York? Because I'll be honest, I've never been to an actual New York bodega. From what I understand of what a bodega is, I've been to something similar in Boston, but I've never been to the New York bodega. So, I mean, is there an actual diversity off of this? Is there something like this? Is this only a Hispanic thing? I have no idea, but as far as I know, isn't it just a small convenience store without gas? I don't know, but everything in this speech right here screams out of touch. It yells, you're out of touch. We don't know anything about what you guys do. The First Lady appeared to misspeak, pronouncing bodegas. No, it sounds like, well, hey, bodegas. It sounded more like it was Bogota. Bogida. Bodegas are popular corner stores found throughout New York City, particularly in the Bronx, which provide a range of food and household products. And yes, we just listened to her remarks. This is not the first time the Doctor of Education has completely butchered the Spanish language. In 2021, while speaking to a handful of California farmers, Biden enthusiastically told the crowd, "Si se puede," while attempting to say "si se puede," or "yes we can."
So say it with me. Si se puede. The future is ours. Thank you. So say it with me. Si se puede. The future.
The worst part of that is the eagle in the background, which has a very, very, very striking similarity to something symbolic that I'm sure that a Democrat candidate does not want to be standing in front of, while mispronouncing words in Spanish. In reaction to Biden's latest comments, Senator Ted Cruz's senior communications advisor Steve Guest tweeted, "This isn't Veep. Which White House speechwriter just won a bet for getting the First Lady to say something like this," while referring to the political comedy starring Julia Louis-Dreyfus, which I'm actually curious about, but I've never seen. As for the term Latinx, polls have consistently shown that the vast majority of Hispanic Americans reject the gender-neutral label. In recent months, Democrats like Congressman Richie Torres have blasted organizations like the New York Yankees for using the word Latinx. "You're saying it wrong, it's Latinx." In late May, the New York Yankees sent out a series of tweets regarding gun violence. One of those tweets said each year more than 4,100 Latinx people die from gun violence in the U.S. and 13,300 are shot and wounded. Torres responded, I represent South Bronx, home to the Yankees. Never heard anyone locally use the term Latinx. Does the majority of Hispanics actually use the term Latinx? If the answer is no, how did Latinx come to be the term used in government and corporate America? Richie, I'm glad you asked, because I'm going to tell you. It was because of white, upscale, well-to-do liberals, mostly college-educated, who took a Spanish class one day in their freshman year because they needed to have a foreign language credit. And the Spanish teacher said, okay, so while we were out here, will we look at these words? You have nouns, and they refer to adjectives. And if the noun ends in a, it is typically meant to be female and feminine. And if it ends in o, it's typically meant to be masculine or male. And this is also how you know whether or not you use el or la. Meanwhile, the gender diversity student heard this and said, triggered, male and female! That's how that came to be. Which, by the way, I'd also really, really like to understand how they get around the L and the la in that situation. All I hear about is ending the A and the O at the end of the noun. They never tell me how they get around the translation of the word the in Spanish, el or la. If you're speaking to a particular person who prefers Latinx, then by all means use the term, he added. But if you're referring to a Hispanic community in general, why not use the term the majority itself predominantly uses? Because it's triggering to a white liberal. Every community should have the right to label itself rather than have the label imposed on them by others, the congressman continued. Torres is correct that hardly any Hispanic person prefers the term Latinx, despite its frequent appearances. Politico reported in December that according to the new poll, just 2% of Hispanic American voters use the term, possibly contributing to the exodus. And one of the things with that as well, it's not just Latinx, but it's the expectation to do this into every other aspect of their language. Latinx, as the blue hairs want you to use, does not have a grounding in the grammatical rules or the pronunciation rules of the Spanish language. The way it's written, at least. I mean, if you wanted to use it in a way that would make sense by their language rules and still something that they wouldn't use, it would be, I'm going to put it into the chat here, which you guys are going to see it before I possibly say it. That would be the way to do it if they were trying to do it properly and go by all the rules that the Spanish language goes with. I've spoken Spanish on and off for probably 20 years. I'm way out of practice right now. I couldn't do it if I tried. But I still remember some of the foundational grounding of the language. So, that is what we see off of that. But we're not done with that, by the way. We got to talk a little bit about the reaction to this. Jill Biden chided for saying Latinos as unique as breakfast tacos. This one is from Reuters. U.S. First Lady Jill Biden's attempt to compliment Latinos flopped on Monday when she said they were as unique as breakfast tacos, prompting criticism from across the political spectrum. Do Hispanic people traditionally eat breakfast tacos? I thought that was an American thing. Speaking in San Antonio at the annual conference of Unidos US, formerly known as the National Council of La Raza, Biden attempted to praise Raul Izaguirre, who led the civil rights and advocacy organization for 30 years. That is a name that I have never tried to pronounce in Spanish before. Raul helped build this organization with the understanding that the diversity of this community, as distinct as the bodegas, no, she said bodegas, of the Bronx, as beautiful as the blossoms of Miami, and as unique as the breakfast tacos here in San Antonio, is your strength. In New York City, people love convenience stores, known as bodegas, that are often run by Dominican or Puerto Rican merchants. Biden mispronounced the word as bodegas. Miami has long been a destination for Latinos who migrate to the U.S., running away from the communism of Cuba, by the way. San Antonio is one of the great Latino cities in the U.S. with a population of nearly 1.5 million. That is 65% Hispanic or Latino, according to the U.S. Census data. And one tall, pasty Irish kid, by the way. The largely Mexican-American city is fond of its breakfast tacos, part of the local cuisine. The National Association of Hispanic Journalists was not impressed, saying Biden and her speechwriters ought to better understand the complexities of our people. We are not tacos. Our heritage as Latinos is shaped by a variety of diasporas, cultures, and food traditions, and should not be reduced to a stereotype, the association said in a statement. And we can skip the rest of this article here because this goes on into what The Hill had to say. So, Reuters is right to point out the fact that this is not going over well with the Hispanic community in and of themselves. This is not going over with them well at all because, A, the Latinx thing, where, yes, they're expected to violate every grammar rule they've learned since they started to learn how to talk. But B, yes, the stereotype is out there, but The Hill had to remind us that conservatives pounce. Conservatives hear something completely wrong and they pounce. It's all the evil conservatives. From The Hill, right rips Jill Biden for saying Hispanic community as unique as breakfast tacos. From Sarakshi Rai. First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden is receiving flack from the right for comments in which she said the Hispanic community was as unique as the breakfast tacos in San Antonio. Biden was speaking at the 2022 Unidos US annual conference titled Siempre Adelante, Our Quest for Equity, in San Antonio on Monday. While referring to Unidos US President Raul Izaguirre's work, she commented on the diversity of the Hispanic community, which we've heard already numerous times. Republicans were quick to blast her comments, arguing that they show why Democrats are going to lose Hispanic voters. Arizona Rep. Andy Biggs tweeted a clip of the video and said, "No wonder Hispanics are fleeing the Democrat Party." Ron DeSantis' press secretary Christina Pushaw also commented on the statement, calling it cringeworthy. Imagine the regime media meltdown if a conservative called Hispanics breakfast tacos like Dr. Jill Biden did at the Latinx luncheon today. Democringe. Ooh, I like that. I'm keeping that. Democringe. That is going to be my new word. I'm going to use that right up till the midterms, too. Steve Guest, a special advisor for communications for Ted Cruz, said, "This isn't Veep. Which White House speechwriter just won a bet for getting the First Lady to say something like this?" The White House did not immediately respond to the Hill's request for comment. Her comments come as Latino voters, a critical bloc for President Biden in particular, have recently expressed dissatisfaction with his job performance because many of them, as I've pointed out, are deeply Catholic, which means the whole abortion argument is not a winning issue for them. And I'm sure a lot of them don't like being compared to tacos any more than they like being compared to their illegal immigrant friends who broke the law and jumped the border. Meanwhile, they are completely legal, third generation and probably have a business somewhere. I love you. I love you, Hispanic voters, as much as I love tacos. Because I think of you as tacos. And taco, isn't that like specifically an Aztec thing? Like a Mexican thing? Do other Latin diaspora use that? I'm sure that the tortilla use is not a big thing. They use basically tortillas in Chinese food. They call it a pancake over there. I don't know, though. All right, let's move on to other news. Cassidy Hutchinson is back in the news here from Insider. Ex-White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson is in hiding. Oh! With security after bombshell testimony against Trump, New York Times reports. Is there actually a threat, or did she just come up and go running into hiding so that they could come back and write this article a couple weeks later and say, oh, Republicans are going to hurt her? From Tom Porter. Star witness Cassidy Hutchinson went into hiding with her family in a security detail after making a damning new claims in the January 6 hearings about the former president, the New York Times, a former newspaper, reported. Hutchinson, a former White House aide, in a bombshell testimony at a live committee hearing on July 3rd, said that Trump had sought to lead a mob into the Capitol on January 6 but was prevented by the Secret Service. The New York Times on Sunday reported that the committee rushed to get Hutchinson to testify at the hearing amid concerns the Trump allies were seeking to interfere with her testimony, and that details of her account would leak. In the wake of her testimony, Trump disputed the truth of her account, claiming he barely remembered her, and that she was a social climber. Other Trump allies have also sought to damage her credibility. The New York Times, a former newspaper, reported Hutchinson as unemployed and sequestered with family and security detail, following her testimony, which alienated her from many of the Trump officials she worked with. So, let me back up on this for just a second. She is unemployed and sequestered with family in a security detail. Hi, teacher, I have a question. Who's paying for the security detail and the sequestration? You know, I got flack on Twitter for asking the question, who paid Cassidy Hutchinson's debts? Dude, private security is not cheap. Hey, who paid Cassidy Hutchinson's debts? Somebody? Anybody? Hutchinson was an aide to Mark Meadows, and according to the Times, was among officials tasked with securing congressional support for Trump during his first impeachment trial. The Times reported Hutchinson formed a bond with Liz Cheney. That's disgusting. Oh, God, I just got a horrible image in my head of Cassidy Hutchinson forming a bond with Liz Cheney. What happens if you pour bleach directly on your own brain? Asking for a friend. The ranking Republican on the committee, who has faced criticism and political ostracization after calling for the GOP to rid itself of Trump's influence. State election officials who testified to the committee described facing a wave of threats from Trump supporters. Yeah, I'm sure. After coming under pressure. Well, actually, I'm not that surprised by that because they are a religious bunch. Just not the religion they claim to be. After coming under pressure from the former president to help overturn his defeat in the 2020 election. Yeah, I don't think that there was any credible threat to any of this. I think that they just ran to the bunker for show. I mean, the January 6th committee, wherever they're getting the money from, Soros, had a little bit of money to throw around and say, hey, if if you go to a bunker, it's going to help our case. It's going to help us say that Trump people are unhinged and Trump is unhinged. The only people I've seen talking about Cassidy Hutchinson since like 2 days after the testimony have been leftoids. I don't think anybody cares. And to put it into perspective, the leftoids are still talking about Rittenhouse. And it's been a year since that. Here's another one. I mean, you guys can see the author on the front page, but I was going to say, let's see if we can't cover this up and read the headline and see if you can figure out which morally bankrupt Washington Post author wrote this. Opinion. We should worry what happens if Trump never faces justice, not if he does. From Jennifer Rubin. NBC News host F. Chuck Todd asked Maryland Governor Larry Hogan on Sunday, do you think the country can handle prosecuting a former president? The implication seemed to be that Americans should be afraid to hold Trump responsible for the worst betrayal of the public ever committed by a president. Why? Might his supporters start another riot? Will Republicans later bring spurious charges against an innocent former president? Oh my God. 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 By the way, I didn't read this article before I put this on here, so I'm reading this for the first time with you guys. Hogan's answer started badly. I'm not sure they can, he said, apparently meaning some subset of Americans could not tolerate the proper functioning of the judicial system, but he swiftly recovered. I think, no man is above the law, Hogan said solemnly, so if that's where the facts lead, that's what has to happen. At least one Republican has the temerity to demand justice, regardless of whether the violent mob might say about it. Oh, you I am starting to hate myself for trying to appeal to the AM radio audience right now and watching my language because they've got their kids in the car, because there is a certain word that I want to call Jennifer Rubin right now, and I'm not going to do it. But those of you who know me in real life and were watching the show before I made that shift know that that word usually follows the word disingenuous. Oh! Of course, if the facts and law do not support a conviction, AG Merrick Garland's choice is no choice at all. He must decline prosecution. Yeah, that's unfortunately not what's going to do this. But if the charges against Trump are well-founded, the notion that Garland should be afraid to indict him for, say, seditious conspiracy, conspiracy to incite a riot, or conspiracy to commit fraud against the United States presents a false choice. Should Garland fear acquittal from a jury unable to process the amount of evidence against Trump, this would suggest the jury system is so corrupt that justice against a powerful rich white man is impossible. Oh my God. Demo cringe. Is the argument that Americans cannot stomach the idea that no person is above the law because holding some individuals in positions of power accountable for their crimes would result in innocent people being prosecuted. Again, one wonders if we should declare democracy's failure inevitable. Well, it's not a democracy, so that's easy. The question media, politicians, and voters should be asking is this: after seeing the compelling evidence that the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th Selfie Fest already has presented, with no cross, with more coming Tuesday and Thursday, with no cross, how could we afford not to press charges against Trump? One of the committee's major accomplishments has been to demonstrate that virtually all the compelling evidence against Trump has come from his closest associates, demolishing the argument that the investigation is a partisan witch hunt. It is. And the reason, there are a couple things that are going on here. Now, I'm going to stop this before I say something I'm going to regret. But I'm going to talk about why we can't prosecute a former president. Now, we had hearing after hearing about Hillary Clinton in which she lied under oath under numerous occasions. But nothing ever happened to her in the midst of it. When we look at the impeachments of Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, we look at them for what they really were. Partisan in the most direct of manners. And really, honestly, when we look at the impeachment of Nixon, it was the same way. In spite of the fact that he didn't actually get impeached, he resigned before doing so, the impeachment that was coming down the pipes was partisan in the most adamant and blatant way. Now, the DOJ has to operate under a different sphere. Part of the problem, and part of the thing that I constantly point out about the January 6th committee, is number one, grand juries are done behind closed doors for a reason. You don't just put this evidence out there. If there was actually an investigation going on, Liz Cheney would take a notebook like this, write down the evidence that she has, hand it out to Merrick Garland, who would sit there and grab a bottle of whiskey and realize that he has the unfortunate task of making a partisan indictment against a former president, against a political enemy, and against somebody who passed him over for the Supreme Court. These are all three things to keep in mind about this. In an unenviable spot that Merrick Garland would be, but that's not what we're doing. We're coming out here, we're having CNN produce this widely, openly. Probably the same CNN who's going to produce the campaign ads for these particular Democrats. Yes, I do include Kinzinger and Cheney into this. For these particular Democrats, for these particular globalists. This is nothing but an expensive, taxpayer-funded way for Democrats to make campaign ads. As far as the indictment, as I mentioned with Garland, what Jennifer Rubin doesn't understand is we don't indict former presidents. We don't go after former presidents, especially when the off party is in power, for a reason. Think of the position the Attorney General is in right now. I don't know that he cares, except I'm sure there's an advisor telling him, dude, if you do this, this is going to look like sour grapes. Yes, the Democrats are going to support it, but they were going to vote for you anyway. This is going to look like sour grapes to literally everybody else who's already reeling and souring on this administration that nominated you for the inflation that they put up. All right. How do you convict, in especially today's political and partisan environment, anybody? How do you find a prosecutor that's unbiased enough to look at the evidence fairly and not with a political means? And by the way, if this does come, what is this going to look like to people who now have to wonder if they're going to be persecuted for the way that they voted by the same DOJ? There's a lot of problems. And this, of course, is coming out and assuming that the January 6th Select Committee can come out and actually put something forward that isn't a campaign ad. So that's why it's very, very difficult to bring out a prosecution. And I'm not even going out with the preponderance of evidence or lack thereof in this particular case. One of the other problems that I have with this is that everybody in this country is guaranteed a right to a speedy trial by a jury as one's peers who is unbiased. If you are plastering this January 6th Select Committee on CNN and everywhere, how would you possibly ever get an unbiased jury? But that's what we see off that. From WSB TV2 out of Atlanta. Judge orders Lindsey Graham to testify for special grand jury in Trump election probe. Now, that moron, Cocchiarella, I am an 18-year-old strategist for the Democrats. That moron is telling us, well, this means that Lindsey Graham is in trouble because he's going before a grand jury. No, you never testify in front of your own grand jury. He's going for a testimony for something that's also a partisan witch hunt, but regardless. But let's read from WSB TV. A Fulton County judge ordered the U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham to testify before a special grand jury in Fulton County next month. Graham is one of the 8 people jury members subpoenaed last week. Graham said he would fight the subpoena. On Monday, the judge declared Graham a necessary witness to the investigation. Why? He's a senator who blows with the wind from South Carolina. This is another step in the long legal process of getting Graham down from Washington to testify. The new order says the grand jury needs to hear about Graham's 2 alleged phone calls to Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. In the order, Fulton County Superior Judge Robert McBurney said the court finds that Lindsey Graham is a necessary material witness in the special grand jury's investigation into potential criminal interference in Georgia's 2020 election. The new order also requires Graham to come testify in August. The grand jury subpoenaed Graham. At the same time, it also subpoenaed former Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani and others who were at a December 2020 State Senate subcommittee hearing. Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, can you talk about what you're going to testify today? Channel 2 political reporter Richard Elliott asked Giuliani at the time. Not right now, Giuliani said. So, we'll see what happens with that, but yeah, they're getting pulled down to testify. They're going to try to drag this out until 2024 so they can start putting people onto the bench and testifying and start doing a trial in about September of 24 in the midst of while some of these people are running. From the Blaze, look at the other end of the aisle. It seems that the progressive movement is not all that happy with the Biden admin, or the mainstream media, by the way. Starting with this one, liberals are blaming CNN and MSDNC for Biden's low polling. They're tired of this bull S. From Carlos Garcia. Liberals angry over low polling for President Biden, and the Democrats excoriated CNN and MSDNC over the weekend. Biden and the Dems continue to garner historically low support from Americans in numerous polls ahead of the pivotal midterm elections. Some on the left are attempting to blame the media instead of the state of the economy and the incompetence of the Biden admin. The outrage mob against CNN and MSDNC was whipped up on Sunday by the Palmer Report, a progressive news outlet. By the way, the Palmer Report has me blocked on Twitter, just so you know. I'm quite proud of that, actually. MSNBC and CNN insist they're speaking difficult truths about Biden and the Democrats that we need to hear, but it's really just hyperbolic Democrat bashing, and objectively speaking, it's unwarranted. Viewers are turning off MSNBC and CNN because they're tired of the bull S, said the outlet in a series of tweets. The outlet went on to claim that liberals are increasing their support of the Democrat Party, but MSDNC and CNN weren't reporting it. If MSNBC and CNN are smart, they'll drop this contrarian hyperbole and simply give viewers the truth they're seeking. Viewers overwhelmingly want to know how to line up behind the Democrat Party for the midterms. When will MSNBC and CNN simply give them that, the outlet asked. Many on the left agreed with the criticism. MSNBC and CNN fail to realize that democracy is on the line. Hear that? MSNBC and CNN, you're being turned off. Get it together because you're turning into another Fox, read another popular reply. You better get a grip over there at MSNBC and CNN. Democracy's on its last breath. Wake the F up, read another tweet. MSNBC and CNN want Democrats to lose the elections. Both blame the Democrats while ignoring the chaos the Republicans are causing and them voting no on anything that helps everyday Americans. They did the same thing with Hillary and helped elect a treasonous president, tweeted another detractor. All right, full stop. Back up. So, there are several problems that are going on with this. Now, there are several problems that are going on in the country. The progressive movement, the hard left, the Palmer Report type people, they don't want to hear what's actually going on in this country. They want to hear a carefully curated set of ideas that reinforce what they already believe. Now, these people aren't going to change their vote, and they're still going to use CNN and MSNBC when it's convenient to go, oh, and the cons over on Twitter. But realistically, they want to go out to the Palmer Report. They want to listen to Jeff Tiedrick and Bobby Reich and Coach Iarella and these kind of people. They want to listen to these outlets that don't challenge their ideas, that don't come out and tell them the truth. They don't want to hear the truth. They want to hear a carefully curated set of propaganda that reinforces what they think already. They want to be in an echo chamber. They don't want to hear any sort of pushback off of this. And this is one big difference. I've had my criticisms with Republicans, especially MAGA Republicans, over the years. But one thing that I've noticed about them, and even Democrats versus Republicans, versus progressives, like the Palmer Report, is that they will go to the Democrats' platform. They will go to the opposite party's platform and seek a different idea, seek to try to drill their ideas down on everybody else. They'll go into the enemy's nest, the lion's den. Now, progressives will accuse them of just getting all their talking points from Fox News and never looking at anything but Fox News because of the same thing I said, because it reinforces their ideas. It's an echo chamber, but they don't seem to do that. They go out to the social media and they engage with people who disagree with them. They want to hear the other opinion, and they want to shut it down, but they want to hear the other opinion. And what I've noticed about progressivism is the same thing that I've noticed about the January 6th subcommittee, is that anything that's said in the progressive movement falls apart at the slightest bit of pushback. So these people have been taught that if it's not reinforcing their ideas, then it's evil, then it's right-wing propaganda. The slightest little bit of pushback makes all of these arguments fall apart, and they know it. So that's what we have coming from that. Furthering, Rashida Tlaib has attacked the New York Times for providing a platform for transphobic hate and propaganda. From Joe Silverstein, Representative Rashida Tlaib attacked the New York Times, a former newspaper, on Monday for providing a platform for transphobic hate and propaganda, after the newspaper's magazine published a long-form piece in June exploring the impacts of gender transition on minors. Tlaib called on her followers to sign a petition sponsored by her congressional campaign to tell the New York Times to stop providing a dangerous platform for transphobic hate and instead amplify trans voices, in response to reports that the article was being used to support a Texas policy to investigate transgender treatments for youth as child abuse. The New York Times has been providing a platform for transphobic hate and propaganda with horrifying consequences. Texas just entered New York Times article into evidence to push for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services to take trans kids away from their supportive parents. The impeach the mother effer Congresswoman tweeted. Dude, this lady cannot go back to Palestine with this picture out there this woman would get thrown off a building for her support for transgenderism or any sexual proclivity that doesn't lead into reproduction. She continued, during escalating assaults on trans people, like the ones that happen in Palestine, and trans rights nationwide, the New York Times is featuring writers debating whether trans people should even exist and scapegoating this already marginalized community. Dude, that sounds like Iran, and Iraq, and Palestine. Drawing from Marxist literature, Tlaib invoked terms like liberation and solidarity in her Twitter posts and credited Chase Strangio, Deputy Director for Transgender Justice with the ACLU's LGBTQIAIRMIDIBTXTYABITYM and HIV project, calling to attention to the issue. Yeah, Saudi Arabia, that's a good one. But when the leptoids go after the people who carry the water for them, I mean, I just have to sit back and laugh. The father of a teen killed in Parkland interrupts Biden with a call for more action on shootings. Do they have the video of this? If not, I might go grab it from the Daily... Wow, I just said probably something racially insensitive. Just about said something racially insensitive about Shapiro. That won't go over well with the AM radio audience. I want to see if I can find that one over here, because I think they have the video on the Daily Wire. Yep, they've got the video. They've got two videos, two angles of it. All right, so we'll read from NBC and then we'll watch the video. Thank you, Shapiro, for at least having that up there. I know I heckle you all the time, but it is very handy to go to the Daily Wire and they'll have the embedded tweets. The father of a teen killed in Parkland interrupts Biden with a call for more action on shootings. From Molly Recker and Rebecca Shabad. The father of one of the teenagers killed in the Parkland, Florida school shooting in 2018 interrupted President Biden at a White House event Monday meant to celebrate a new law aimed at reducing gun violence. Manuel Oliver's 17-year-old son Joaquin was one of the 17 people killed in the shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. The elder Oliver was one of the several survivors and family members at the White House event. Oliver interjected as Biden was saying the bill was proof that, despite the naysayers, we can make meaningful progress on dealing with gun violence. We have to do more than that, Oliver yelled from the audience. Sit down and hear what I have to say, Biden responded, gesturing to Oliver. Oliver repeated that more has to be done, and Biden said, let him talk, man. Come on, man. Look, make no mistake about it. This legislation, it's real progress. More has to be done. Well, let's go and listen to what they had to say.
Many things is proof that despite the naysayers, we can make meaningful progress on dealing with gun violence. Because make no mistake, sit down, you'll hear what I have to say. If you think
he's friendly in his demeanor and tone with that, like he's because he knows that no Trump supporter is going to be allowed into there. But that just sounds dictatorial. The way that the wording, not the tone of his voice.
many things is proof that despite the naysayers, we can make meaningful progress on dealing with gun violence. Because make no mistake, sit down, you'll hear what I have to say. If you think Let me finish my comment. Let him talk. Let him talk. No one.
There's the Secret Service trying to shut down the naysayer because we can't have that making its way through the mainstream media. Oh, somebody doesn't support the former president?
Okay? Because make no mistake about it, this legislation is real progress, but more has to be done. Many things is proof that despite the naysayers, we can make meaningful progress on dealing with gun violence. Because make no mistake, sit down, you'll hear what I have to say. If you think you...
I'm trying to tell you this for years.
Let me finish my comment. Let him talk. Let him talk. No one. Okay?
All right. Oliver spokesperson J.P. Hervis said that Oliver never thought the event should be a celebration and that it would allow Republicans to claim that they'd taken action to address gun violence and avoid additional change. Ahead of the White House event, Oliver tweeted, "The word celebration has no space today in a society that saw 19 kids massacred just a month ago." Well, take it up with your FBI field office. Oliver has previously criticized the Biden admin for not doing enough to respond to mass shootings. He climbed a crane in Washington this year to demand that the president or Congress pass meaningful measures. So this guy wants you disarmed, just so you know. I believe there was more video for this. The man who got up during the president's remarks on gun control is escorted out of the White House event because, of course, can't have the naysayers. I'm surprised he's not in cuffs on his way out.
Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, 1918. 17 dead, 17 injured.
That's probably out of context. I'd have to hear more of the speech to know if that one's true or not, but here's another funny one.
On all 50 states in the District of Columbia.
All right, so that's what they have to say with that. Speaking of the admin, Biden admin working hard not to do anything stupid during Afghanistan withdrawal anniversary, according to a report from Tim Meads. The Biden admin is working hard on its public perception leading up to the one-year anniversary of the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, according to a new report from NBC News. Sources from the National Security Council told the media outlet that the administration's goal is to avoid doing anything stupid before, during, and after the August anniversary. Well, I mean, a big part of the problem there would have been if you'd have stuck with the original timeline. Sources for the National Security Council told the media, let's see, we did that one already. NBC News noted that the admin officials also say that Biden's team is particularly concerned that if marking the occasion isn't done properly, the American people will be reminded of what a disaster the withdrawal turned out to be, thus potentially hurting the president and his party as the midterm elections approach. In August of 2021, President Biden began fully withdrawing troop presence in Afghanistan after the U.S. spent nearly 20 years there. The decision has been blasted by critics as one of the worst moments of his presidency, particularly after 13 American service members were killed on August 26 during the Kabul airlift, the name given to the mass evacuation of Americans and Afghan refugees. By the time the August 31st deadline passed, thousands of allies and Americans had been left behind by Biden's admin. The Taliban quickly took over the country after the U.S. troops departed, despite prior assurances from the president that the Afghan government would hold. During the withdrawal, Biden said that the Islamic extremist group's takeover was not anticipated to happen as quickly as it did. In the aftermath, the Taliban was left with billions of dollars worth of American equipment that had to be left behind. And they're worried about somebody doing something stupid now. from The Blaze. Progressive Group says running Biden as the 24 presidential nominee would be a tragic mistake and that it will campaign to ensure he is not nominated. From Alex Nitzberg. The Progressive Group, Roots Action, will campaign to prevent President Biden from becoming the Democratic nominee during the 2024 election cycle. He's not going to be the nominee. There is no way. But he still has to put up the bravado and say that he's going to be. Because otherwise, what little bit of sanity we have left in this country is going to be gone. There is a reason that he's continuing to say that he's going to be the nominee. I gotta sneeze. Okay, it passed. Unfortunately, President Biden has been neither bold nor inspiring, and his prospects for winning re-election appear to be bleak, with so much at stake. Making him the Democratic standard bearer in 2024 would be a tragic mistake, Roots Action declared in a statement. The hashtag Don't Run Joe campaign will launch nationwide on November 9th, 2022, the day after the midterm elections. Wouldn't it be a shame, by the way, if if that campaign started now? Hashtag Don't Run Joe. Proving the weakness in the Democratic Party. A president is not his party's king, and he has no automatic right to renomination. Joe Biden should not seek it. If he does, he will have a fight on his hands, the statement said. President Biden said late last year that he plans to run for re-election as long as he has good health. Biden, who has already made history as the world's oldest president, would be 86 years old at the end of his second term in office. He has been underwater on job approval in various polls for quite some time. We're making this announcement today because the current debate over whether Biden should run again focuses too narrowly on his age and the latest polls, Roots Action co-founder Jeff Cohen said, according to the Roots Action press release. It's his performance, his inability to fight for working people and stand up against Republican and corporate obstruction that has us worried about 2024. Democrats would do better in this year's midterms if the public knew Biden would not be heading the ticket in 24, Cohen told Fox News Digital. We believe that would shift voters' attention away from Biden to the extremism of Republicans on everything from abortion rights to voting rights to climate change denial. But do remember, all the Democrats that are running either carried water for, or in many cases stepped out of the way for Biden to get to the office that he's sitting in right now. Everything that we have going on in our country right now is on Democrats' hands, whether it's Republican obstructionism or not. It is literally all on their hands. As much as they come back to try to deny it, it's on their hands. I want to just look at them because, this doesn't look to be anything that has to do with the Spike Lee movie when it's Roots Action, but we can look at some of the things that they have up here. Their website looks just janky as all heck. I don't think that they're going to be able to launch a successful campaign, except for the fact that Joe was already planning on probably not running. Make your state a safe haven for abortion rights. Sign the petition. Don't do anything else, but sign the petition. Tell Congress to pass the College for All Act. Tell your state to abolish the death penalty. Let's fix the electoral college problem. Make voter registration automatic in your state. No, screw you. What do you say we stop allowing candidates who lose the national popular vote to ever enter the White House as president again? Adding your state to the national popular vote plan would put us very close to accomplishing this goal. Please email your state legislators and governors below. This is the Interstate Compact, which is probably illegal. I love this. Your letter. In 2 of the past 6 U.S. elections, the candidate with fewer votes became the president, most recently Donald Trump in 2016. In 2020, we were kept in doubt for days as to whether it had happened again, and in every presidential race, candidates are forced to focus their attention on a dozen battleground states and ignore the vast majority of voters nationwide. If enough states required their electors to vote for the winner of the nationwide popular vote, rather than the state popular vote, it would fix the problems of the Electoral College without needing to amend the Constitution. Pretty sure that's still illegal, by the way. The compact won't take effect until enough states have joined in. We're now at 15 states plus DC and 196 of the needed 270 Electoral College votes. When can our state get on board? Will you please let me know what you are doing to advance this easy but significant democratic reform and how I can help? So, instead of going to a handful of battleground states, which they don't, they typically go to all of them, you would rather that they go here and here. Sorry, I ain't down for that. But yes, these are the people that are saying Biden shouldn't run for office. Catholic Vote launches $3 million midterm campaign ahead of kicking Catholic Democrats out of office. Who do we know that's a Catholic Democrat? Pelosi, Biden. Campaign ad attacks Iowa Democratic Rep Cindy Axne for saying nothing about attacks on Catholic churches. I think you should shoot for the top yourself. From Thomas Fippen. A political ad released this week targets a Catholic politician for not speaking out about the vandalism and violence against pro-life pregnancy centers and Catholic churches. The ad attacks Cindy Axne of Iowa for doing nothing while churches are firebombed and radical liberals are acting like terrorists, and it's only the first commercial of its kind in a larger campaign from Catholic Vote aimed to call out self-proclaimed Catholics, many of the Democrat Party, for not being in line with Catholic teaching. Highlighting silence from the Catholic politicians on suspected arson attacks against churches, as in the Axne ad, is only one aspect of the campaign from Catholic Vote, President Brian Birch told Fox News Digital in an exclusive interview. And again, you're sitting back and losing the Catholics. It's not going to go back well for you. I do think, of course, we should be shooting higher for the 2 highest ranking Catholics. Also the 2 highest ranking Democrats in the country. Is Chuck U. Schumer? Is he a Catholic? I have no idea. But I know Nancy is. And I know that that old Joe is. Excuse me. It's weird. It's like that abortion question really is important on the minds of the Catholic Church. Can we get this video? We can. Yeah, let's watch the ad.
Radical liberals are behaving like terrorists, calling for a summer of rage. The group, Jane's Revenge, is firebombing churches, throwing Molotov cocktails, and right here in Des Moines, they're vandalizing property, attacking a pregnancy resource center. Cindy Axne could stand up for law and order, but instead, she does nothing. An assassination attempt on a Supreme Court justice, domestic terrorists calling it open season. When will Cindy Axne do her job?
I know that Stephen Ignoramus calls out the marimba all the time. Like, oh, the marimba. But what about the string quartet at the beginning of every Democrat or Republican attack ad? From Newsweek. Lauren Boebert reported to FBI after terminate this presidency tweet. Meanwhile, the FBI is tagged in every single tweet that calls for the death of a Republican politician, and nothing happens. From Ewan Palmer. Lauren Boebert has been reported to the FBI on Twitter by several users over her terminate the presidency tweet. The House Republican from Colorado on Sunday appeared to mock President Biden after he mistakenly said presidency instead of pregnancy while discussing abortion's rights being restricted in the U.S. following the revoking of Roe v. Wade. And just last week, it was reported that a 10-year-old girl was a rape victim in Ohio. 10 years old, man. That's the age that I like to sniff. And she was forced to have to travel out of state to Indiana to seek to terminate the presidency and maybe save her life. Biden said on July 8th. In a July 10th tweet, Boebert, a staunchly anti-abortion lawmaker, tweeted, "We need to terminate this presidency," end quote. Repeat the line, Boebert added, in reference to another gaffe Biden made during his speech, in which he appeared to read out the teleprompter commands. In response, dozens of social media users reported the tweet to the FBI as well as the Homeland Security and Justice Department, claiming it incited violence against the president. "Why is Boebert not in custody? She's making threats," one user tweeted to the FBI's official account. Boebert and the FBI have been contacted for comment. You know, that kind of reminds me of that crazy-eyed moron that's apparently a Democratic strategist who had a blue check for like an hour and then lost it again. Why is Brett Kavanaugh not in custody for lying under oath? I am angry. I notice Newsweek doesn't report when the rest of us come back out and do the same thing. It's weird. From the Daily Wire. Ohio AG casts more doubt on story of child rape victims cited by Biden in pro-abortion speech. From Hank Berrien. Ohio's top law enforcement official said Monday he's found no evidence of the existence of the alleged 10-year-old rape victim, whom abortion advocates, included President Biden, claimed to had to flee to the Buckeye State to terminate her tragic pregnancy. The story generated sympathy and outrage in the aftermath of the U.S. Supreme Court's decision last month to overturn Roe v. Wade and give the states the right to allow, regulate, or even ban abortion, but the central claim began to fall apart late last week amid a telling lack of crucial details. State AG David Yost can be cast further doubt on the story in an appearance on Fox News. "We have regular contact with prosecutors and local police and sheriffs," Yost told Jesse Waters. "There's not a whisper anywhere." Yost said he believes that such horrific cases would not escape the attention of his office. "My office runs a state crime lab," he said. "Any case like this, you're going to have a rape kit, you're going to have a biological evidence, and you're going to be looking for DNA. There's no case request for analysis that looks anything like this." Biden repeated a claim that seems to have originated in a July 1st Indianapolis Star report that quoted a doctor who said the girl was forced to travel to Indiana for her abortion. The doctor, Indianapolis obstetrician gynecologist Caitlin Bernard, said that she had been alerted by an Ohio child abuse doctor about the case, but Yost also pointed out that even after the Supreme Court's ruling, Ohio's so-called heartbeat law would have permitted an abortion in a case like the one described. Yeah, I'm calling crap on that. I don't think that this happened. But it's kind of fun that they come back and try to make this up and they still try to use this as the justification for convenience for the 22-year-old who got drunk and did something she regretted the night before, but she waited 9 months to do it. All right. I'm sorry. I ain't no doctor, but this seems like a bad idea. Over-the-counter birth control. Drug maker seeks FDA approval. From the Associated Press. For the first time, a pharmaceutical company has asked for permission to sell a birth control pill over the counter in the U.S. HRA Pharma's application on Monday sets up a high-stakes decision for health regulators amid legal and political battles over women's reproductive health. The company says the timing was unrelated to the Supreme Court's recent decision overturning Roe v. Wade. Hormone-based pills have long been the most common form of birth control in the U.S., used by millions of women since the 60s. They have always required a prescription, generally so health professionals can screen for conditions that raise the risk of rare but dangerous blood clots. The French drug maker's application compiles years of research intended to convince the FDA that women can safely screen themselves for those risks and use the pill effectively. For a product that's been available for at least 50 years, it's been used safely by millions of women, we thought that it was the time to make it more available, said Frederic Wellgren, HRA's Chief Strategy Officer. An FDA approval would come next year and would only apply to HRA's pill, which would be sold under its original brand name, O-Pill. The company acquired the decades-old drug from Pfizer in 2014, but it's not currently marketed in the U.S. See, the problem that I have with this, and I do want to go with easier methods for contraception. The problem that I have with this is you're going to be going out and affecting people's hormones in a way that these people might not want to do so. I barely take aspirin. I don't touch anything prescription, but if there is something that I would have to get prescription, I would want to have somebody who knew how it would affect me before I put it into my body. And the comfort to do something like this. I could actually talk about this probably because she's deceased, but I mean, one of the things with this is my first fiance went on to we reconnected. We almost actually dated again, but we reconnected afterward, and she had told me when she, shortly after her and I split up, had gone on to the pill, she realized that there was no hormonal contraception that could work for her. She had such terrible stomach cramps and pains during the midst of all this. And I'm sorry, but in something like that that affects your hormones, I would much, much, much rather be under the care of a doctor than just, oh, I'm going to grab this off the shelf and hope for the best. So I don't know. I don't think this is a good idea, personally. I think it's a good idea that this gets used in general parlance, but I would still rather see something like this be done under a doctor's supervision. So we'll see what happens with that. Alexandria Ocasio-Chavez. AOC pressures Chuck U. Schumer to say whether Justices Brett Kavanaugh and Neil Gorsuch lied under oath about their views on Roe v. Wade. From Oma Sadiq. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Chavez urged Senate Democratic leadership to take a position on whether Justices Kavanaugh and Gorsuch lied to senators about their views on Roe during their Supreme Court confirmation process. The New York Democrat, along with fellow Democratic Rep. Ted Lieu of California, sent a letter to Senate Majority Leader Chuck U. Schumer on Friday, demanding he address the matter. We request that the Senate make its position clear on whether Kavanaugh and Gorsuch lied under oath during their confirmation hearings, the lawmakers wrote in the letter. We must call out their actions for what they were before the moment passes so that we can prevent such a mendacious denigration of our fundamental rights and rule of law from ever happening again. The call comes after Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, both conservative justices appointed by former President Trump, have come under scrutiny following their votes last month to overturn Roe in the landmark ruling that established the constitutional right to an abortion almost 50 years ago. In their confirmation hearings, the justices called Roe a precedent that had been reaffirmed, but neither directly said that they wouldn't overturn the landmark ruling if presented with the opportunity to do so. Gorsuch said Roe v. Wade was a precedent of U.S. Supreme Court worthy as treatment of precedent like any other, and that it had been reaffirmed many times. Kavanaugh similarly called Roe important precedent of the Supreme Court that has been reaffirmed many times. They didn't lie under oath. A case came before them. They both knew that they couldn't go back and weigh on it without seeing what was in the case. They couldn't come out and tell you how they were going to weigh on it. But there's been pressure on this from the beginning to come back out and say, no, you have to come out and say that you'll uphold it. Otherwise, we won't let you in. From bounding into sports, the woke mob attacks the Dallas Cowboys for partnering with veteran-owned Black Rifle Coffee Company. Well, I'm not woke, and I would attack you for partnering with veteran-owned Black Rifle Coffee. If Black Rifle Coffee, if you guys actually went out and told some friends, and we grew to 100 viewers a stream, 1,000 viewers a stream, 10,000 viewers a stream, and Black Rifle came up and said, hey, we want to buy you that new microphone that'll make you sound really, really cool, I would say, no thanks, get out of here. You showed your true colors over Rittenhouse. I don't want you anywhere near me. But let's see what Brad Shepard has to say. Unfortunately, the NFL is learning once you bow to the woke masters, you will never be woke enough. The franchise owned by Jerry Jones announced that it struck a deal with Black Rifle Coffee, causing a backlash on social media. The Cowboys are offering free tickets to a game and a 1-year subscription to the veteran-owned coffee company. The backlash on social media criticized Black Rifle for the timing of the deal. It names their coffee flavors, posing in pictures with Rittenhouse, who they threw under the bus, and implied that they were members of the KKK. Sports business correspondent Bob Williams tweeted, "Talk about terrible timing. The Cowboys announced a partnership with a company called Black Rifle Coffee in the wake of the July 4th mass shooting." He added, products include Coffee or Die Roast, Silencer Smooth Roast, AK-47 Espresso Blend, and Freedom Roast Coffee. Black Sports Online's Robert Littell tweeted, Cowboys announced a day after multiple mass shootings they're partnering with pro-gun and anti-kneeling against racial injustice company Black Rifle Coffee, home of the AK-47 Espresso, Murdered Out Roast, and preferred coffee of Kyle Rittenhouse. No, I'm pretty sure that Kyle Rittenhouse hates them because they threw him under the bus. I think they liked him before. He then shared a picture of a man wearing a Klan robe. So yeah, like they said, you can never be woke enough. From the Associated Press. According to the White House, Iran is set to deliver armed drones to Russia. Yeah, who could have seen that coming? From Zeke Miller and Josh Boak. The White House on Monday said it believes Russia is turning to Iran to provide it with hundreds of unmanned aerial vehicles, including weapons-capable drones, for its ongoing war in Ukraine. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said it was unclear whether Iran had already provided any of the unmanned systems to Russia, but said the U.S. has information that indicates Iran is preparing to train Russian forces to use them as soon as this month. Why is Iran whose military capabilities are in the Stone Age, training Russians who have a decent and competent military and technological understanding how to use drones that are probably from the last generation. The National Security Advisor in Russia is probably looking at this saying, "We put these drones up as cannon fodder. We make them use up their defense systems, and then we move in with real drones." Our information indicates the Iranian government is preparing to provide Russia with up to several hundred UAVs, including weapons-capable UAVs, on expedited timeline, he told the reporters on Monday. Sullivan said it was proof Russia's overwhelming bombardments in Ukraine, which have led to consolidated gains in the country's east in recent weeks, was coming at a cost to the sustainment of its own weapons. Sullivan's revelation comes on the eve of President Biden's trip to Israel and Saudi Arabia, where Iran's nuclear program and malign activities in the region will be a key subject of discussion. The U.S. decision to publicly reveal the two countries' chief regional rival was helping to rearm Russia, as both Israel and Saudi Arabia have resisted joining global efforts to punish Russia for its invasion of Ukraine due to their domestic interests. I don't know, dude. As far as I understand, Iran is somewhere in the 80s or 90s with tech versus where the rest of the world is. Especially a Cold War power. I don't know if I buy this one. And even if it is true, I don't know how much effect it's actually going to have. But hey, they think it's going to do something. From the Blaze. Major U.S. Christian denomination declares Israel an apartheid state. Based. From Chris Pandolfo. One of the largest mainline Protestant denominations in the U.S. has voted to declare Israel an apartheid state, becoming the first major American Christian denomination to do so. The governing body of the Presbyterian Church USA on Friday passed a resolution that set the laws, policies, and practices of the Israeli government towards Arabs living in the region known as Palestine fulfill the international legal definition of apartheid. Based. Delegates to the Church Biannual General Assembly, which took place in Louisville, Kentucky, and online voted 266 to 116 to adopt the resolution, which oversees 1.19 million members. Also voted to designate the Nakba Remembrance Day on its calendar, the Palestinian commemoration of Israeli independence on 1948, which Palestinians regard as the destruction of Palestinian society. The resolution accuses Israel of establishing two sets of laws, one for Israelis and one for Palestinians, which gives preferential treatment to Israeli Jews and oppressive treatment to Palestinians. It also repeats accusations that Israel expropriated Palestinian land for Jewish-only settlements, and that the country has forced Palestinians into separate reserves and ghettos. Look, unfortunately, this is the Presbyterian Church bending the knee for the Arabs, but yeah, Israel definitely does have some problems. And of course, they're going to have us fight their wars for them until the end of time, so this seems like this would be cool news, but it really isn't, unfortunately. Here's one that I found right before we got started. Hey, we'll actually finish up again today. Starbucks closing some stores, citing safety concerns in certain cafes. It's interesting when you come out and make the allegation and the assertion that you don't have to be a customer to come in and you can just come in and use the bathroom or do your work and never have to buy anything. that there might be something illegal going on down here. From Heather Head On. Starbucks said on Monday that it's closing 16 U.S. stores after workers reported incidents relating to drug use and other disruptions in the cafe. Yeah, who could have seen that coming? Starbucks said it would permanently close 6 stores, each in the Seattle and Los Angeles areas, 2 in Portland, and single locations in Philly and DC by the end of the month. The company said it received reports from workers about incidents that they said involved drug use by some customers and in some cases members of the public in certain locations. Starbucks said it would transfer employees to other locations when it permanently closes the stores. We read every incident report you file. It's a lot, wrote U.S. operations leads Debbie Stroud and Denise Nelson in a message to U.S. employees Monday. We cannot serve as partners if we don't feel safe to work, they said, referring to the company's term for employees. Starbucks also said it would give store managers leeway to close restrooms, limit seating. Oh! Wait. Is this all because you had the open restroom policy? I'm shocked. It's almost like content creators 2 years ago started telling you that this was going to be a problem. You morons. Limit seating or reduce operations in response to safety concerns. The moves are part of policies aimed at addressing workers' concerns, including about their safety on the job, the company said. Managers can continue to change the store layouts if needed, including limiting seating to customers, the spokeswoman said. The company said it would provide additional guidance to baristas on how to deal with active shooter scenarios and conflict de-escalation at work. Starbucks said workers reportedly report safety concerns during outreach sessions after interim chief executive Howard Schultz returned to the company earlier this year. Who could have seen this coming? Seriously. Alright. I got this one, I got a tweet, and then we'll do Twitter trending and head out of here for the day. Wyatt Gordon. Trucks this big don't belong in cities. Tax vehicles based on weight and dedicate that money to the infrastructure they destroy. No. Number one, this guy is driving like an ass. Excuse my language. He missed. I don't know if he was trying to go around the mini truck off of this, but I know what they tried to do with this photo and try to make this standard size half-ton Dodge look like some massive monstrosity out there when it really isn't. And you'll notice they stacked it up right behind a Ford Ranger. And a single cab short bed Ford Ranger on top of it, and a two-wheeler. So we've got a four-wheel drive, full-size Ram, curb weight, probably 2,800, empty. Next to a 1,700-pound mini truck. And they want to make it seem like this is some monstrous thing. No, this is a guy who clearly can't drive the vehicle that he has and missed. This is not a large vehicle. Who is this guy, by the way? He's blue checked. Covering, I don't know. Is that trains and roads? For Mercury, Virginia, Food and Culture for Style Weekly. And Gigi Walsh is Virginia correspondent, creator of Mungaze. I don't know. He's a moron. I like this one. Blue truck is practical, low enough to see people and animals crossing in front of it. Great for work and everyday use. Ram truck is unnecessarily huge, and most men driving it do so for status and to feed their tiny ego. No, I drive a truck because I haul, a full-size truck because I haul. And by the way, the 2014 half-ton Ford sitting outside probably gets better fuel economy than the Ranger in this picture. So, pick your poison. All right, and the last one is a meme from Gina Carano, looking back on all the stuff that we saw back here. Everything else with the Biden admin, with Lauren Boebert, with Roots Action saying that they want to actively campaign to keep Biden from running for 24. Gina Carano with the boomer meme. This is what happens when you order a president through the mail. Let's look at Twitter trending and head out of here for the day. All right. It is Portfolio Day. Again, number one trend is Portfolio Day. I always like looking at these because it's, what, every third month they do a Portfolio Day and they come back out. It's always on a Tuesday. But some of these artists are really, really good and really creative. Some of them do suck, unfortunately, but there's always good artwork that comes out of this. Some anime drawing, some environment drawing. It's a very dark set today, though. Like a lot of skull imagery, a lot of death imagery, so I'm not sure what goes on. That's kind of neat. I don't like the cityscape so much, but is that photography or is it? No, they painted that. Wow. That's really cool to get to see, and I'm kind of glad that we do Twitter Trending on Tuesday and we get to see it so often. Wish I could pick some of these people up and actually have the funding to pay them to get some of this stuff for backgrounds and such. All right. Number 2, Prime Day. Amazon and Bezos have paid to advertise on Twitter. Shoppers start your engine. Amazon Prime Day 22 is finally here. Our product experts reviewed and found the best deals to shop right now. And Ashley Fairbanks, a Prime Day reminder that all homies hate Jeff Bezos. Dude, don't make me defend Jeff Bezos, because he sucks. But you're wrong on this. Amazon paid $0 in corporate taxes on $35 billion in profit in 2021, and they still won't pay their workers a living wage. Okay, what's a living wage to you? Because the last I knew, the Amazon in Kenosha paid 10 over minimum state minimum wage. They pay 17 in Kenosha last I knew. I like this one though. In the midst of shopping and buying, never forget the real reason for Prime Day. Freedom is the right of all sentient beings. I do love all the anti-capitalists that are getting out here and starting to realize that the Amazon that they go and run in order to every chance they get doesn't sit in line with their views. Jordan Zakarin, due to Prime Day, Amazon workers, warehouse workers will be working mandatory overtime all week, 50 to 60 hours in dangerous conditions, with time and a half after 40. If you're going to buy something on Amazon today, first sign the petition to demand safer conditions and better pay for workers. No! And in fact, if you want to do something, dump your change.org petition, go work your way up through the management, and go tell management. Like, go work for the warehouse and show people how you can make things safer. You're blue checked, of course. Reporter producer for More Perfect Us. I run Progress Report and write for other places. You're English. It's a prime day to tax the rich and unionize. I do love how this all got hijacked too, by the way. All right, number 3, we skipped Tuesday Vive, so we'll move on to Munliv. Manchester United take on Liverpool in a preseason friendly in Bangkok, Thailand. Are we doing, is this soccer? Looks like soccer. This is soccer. So apparently there's a good-sized scrimmage game that people are paying attention to happening in Bangkok. Apparently it might already be over too. Manchester United fans seeing the scores. Don't give us unnecessary hope again. Apparently they were up at 3-0. I don't know. I don't follow soccer, so. Next one. Our 4th. The trending's 5th, Wordle 388X. People try to guess today's 5-letter word in 6 tries or less. I don't usually share my Wordles unless this crap happens. Wordle 388X/6. Arvolt, have you ever had one that looked like that? From what I understand of Wordle, that's painful. Apparently it wasn't the only one either. Goodness. So it appears that the first level, or the first letter rather, was the problem. That's a spoiler alert. Let's get out of that one. Yeah, it does definitely look like the first letter was the problem all the way across this one. That's kind of funny, I'm not going to lie. Alright, last one. Jill Biden. Like we talked about at the top of the show. I love you more than I love tacos. Jill Biden chided for saying Latinos are unique as breakfast tacos. I could go for a breakfast taco right about now. Hispanic Journal Group scolds Jill Biden for breakfast tacos remark, "Do not reduce us to stereotypes." Remember that time when Jill Biden said... Oh, that's Matt Walsh. Remember that time when Jill Biden said Hispanic people are unique like tacos? Pasovic says, need a Jill Biden Taco Tuesday meme for tomorrow. Irene Armendariz Jackson for Congress. I'm the border candidate for Congress. I will flip Beto's old seat. I'm a Border Patrol wife, mother and grandmother, small business owner, and realtor. Joe Biden came to Texas to tell the Hispanic community that we're as unique as breakfast tacos. The fact that someone actually approved her to say that line in her speech and that no one saw an issue with that is wild. They're going to be at 5% Hispanic approval rating soon. I don't know. That's still funny. But that's it. That's our 5 trends. And that's everything across the top. We did it. We finished. I know it's getting rarer and rarer, but yeah, we finished. So, we're going to head out of here for the day. Thanks everybody who came by and chatted with us, came and hung out and talked to us. Another suggestion for a sponsor, so we'll see what happens with that. I'll see what I can do to get in contact with that person. Hopefully, Mr. Fanning knows a way that I can get in contact with that person, and we'll see what happens with that. Otherwise, we're going to head out of here for the day. Thanks everybody who came by and chatted with us. I would love to get some free coffee from that sponsor if it's possible, but I don't know if that's going to be possible yet because we do need to do a little bit of growing. But yes, we are going to head out of here. Thanks to everybody for coming by chatting with us. We'll be back here tomorrow with more contemporary. I got to head out of here. I got to go and head to work. So we will see you here for more news, more headlines, and we will see what the backlash is to the Taco Tuesday comments. And until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.